Hello, everybody, and thank you so much for attending the African Heritage Month event we have for you today. My name is Tyree Haley. I'm the Student Service Advisor, African Cultural Supports, based out of the Alumni campus. Before we get started today, I want to give some housekeeping notes. Today's live session is accessible to everybody. I'd like to recognize Brenna Darcy and Christopher Delage, who you'll see them in the bottom right-hand corner of your screens. Brenna, along with Christopher, will be providing American Sign Language, English interpretation for us today, which we're very happy that we have. The event also includes live captioning. To enable live captions, select captions, subtitles on in your video controls, and choose the language you prefer. We want you to feel engaged, so please share any questions that you may have in the moderated question and answer. Simply click Show Question and Answer at the top of your screen and then click Ask a Question at the bottom. We're monitoring the chat for questions and we'll be sharing them with our panel. Include your name with your question isn't required. You can post it anonymously if that is an option for you. However, questions that we don't have time to address during the event today, we will follow up most appropriately to answer them when we can. We won't be able to reach out to any questions posted anonymously though. So if you want to make sure that you get a response, just make sure you include your name. With all that being said, I would like to welcome NSCC's Vice President Jill Provo to officially kick off our live event and for some important words. Jill, how are you doing today?
I'm doing wonderful, Ty. Thank you.
My pleasure. We're so happy to have you here.
Thank you. Hello, everybody. As Ty said, my name is Jill Provo, and I'm currently in the role of Acting Vice President Academic here at Nova Scotia Community College. My home role here is as Executive Director of our Human Rights, Equity, and Inclusion Department, which is dedicated to dismantling racism and all forms of oppression in working and learning environments at the college. So on behalf of NSCC, I really wish you a warm welcome to our session, as Ty said, Ask a Black Entrepreneur. But first, I'd like to begin by acknowledging that we are in Mi'kma'ki, the unceded ancestral territory and traditional homeland of the Mi'kmaq Nation. Our relationship is based on a series of peace and friendship treaties between the Mi'kmaq Nation and the Crown dating back to 1725. In Nova Scotia, we recognize that we are all treaty people. And as a treaty beneficiary, I also want to personally state the significance of this acknowledgement from my perspective as a biracial woman with lineage to the Black Nova Scotian community. I also come from the African diaspora, and I feel compelled to show my profound respect to local Indigenous and Black communities. Although there are differences, there is a deep interconnectedness between the Mi'kmaq people and the historic African Nova Scotian community. Our struggles are intertwined. We share much pain from a past inflicted with racism and violence against our people, and for that reason, I do a land acknowledgement and recognition of the harms of the past, and equally as important, to recognize the impact this history continues to have on us today. Divisions within and between our communities only further supports colonialism, in my opinion, and that separation means we lose voice, we lose power, and we lose access. So I therefore ask all of you here today, as treaty beneficiaries, to not only go back and read again and reflect on the calls to action from the Truth and Reconciliation Commission, but to do something, please, in solidarity, to take action. We need to ask ourselves what it means to unite and become true allies, and it most certainly requires us to do our part to break down barriers, even when that work is hard and hostile, to ensure we stand together in pursuit of systemic change. We are all treaty people. And so as we move through this session, I would like us to remain cognizant of being an unceded, colonized Mi'kmaq territory, which has left Mi'kmaq people, as well as other people of color and marginalized groups, disproportionately impacted by racism, discrimination, and related trauma. So please, let's keep this in mind as we work together to disrupt barriers and striving for a more equitable Nova Scotia. And let's never forget that we are better together than we are apart. So thank you. And so now, before we officially begin our panel, I just want to say to everyone here that NSCC is serious about our work in fighting racism and striving for equity. This is our second annual Ask a Black Entrepreneur event, and we are committed to honoring African Heritage Month and the contributions of Black and African Nova Scotians all year round. And I'm very proud to say that we just hired Sean Smith, who is our inaugural Senior Advisor of Black Nova Scotian Initiatives at NSCC, and we also just announced that Augie Jones will be the new principal at our Akerley campus. These are two very senior roles at the college, and so needless to say, this is very good news. And we also have a Black and African Nova Scotian Employee Resource Network, a student affinity group. The African Nova Scotian flag is being flown at all of our NSCC campuses across the province right now for the first time ever, and we are about to launch a Black Community Advisory Council. There have been and will be more events organized at our campuses this month, activities hosted by our libraries, the NSCC Foundation, events led by the Student Services Advisors and African Canadian Supports Team. Please know the commitment to change is real, and we will demonstrate a real seriousness to ensure that Black students have the opportunity to excel here at NSCC. And just before I wrap up and hand the floor back to you, Ty, the province's theme, Through Our Eyes, the Voices of African Nova Scotians, focuses on the effects of anti-Black racism and those African Nova Scotians who's blazed the trail for change. And this theme brings awareness of issues from our perspective as African and Black Nova Scotians and how we have overcome adversity to achieve inclusion in all aspects of society. So as we prepare to move to our panel, I want to just add that we ask them to be frank about their experiences as entrepreneurs. And so after you hear about the barriers, some of the challenges and the opportunities facing our panelists, we need you to go out of your way to support Black business owners as one example of something you can do. You see, intentionally supporting Black excellence, which all of our panelists today represent, is the responsibility of us all. This is a key message we want you to take away today. We are seeking allies who want to unite in the struggle for racial justice in our college and in our province. We are all accountable. This is everyone's work. This is everyone's business. Please make it yours. Now, let's get moving. I'm going to hand the floor back over to our host, Ty Haley, who is the one who actually made this event happen today, to introduce you to our wonderful guests, Janelle, Martina, and Kemi. Thank you.
Wow, Jill, thank you so much for that welcome. You know, I really appreciate it. You know, you're definitely a mentor to me in the college, definitely someone I look up to, so I really appreciate that. So today we have three panelists. Each will be asked and directed personal questions directed for them and their journey as an entrepreneur that they can share with you, and hopefully you'll be able to use their experience to, you know, start your own business. And yeah, so with no further ado, I'd like to go ahead and welcome our guests. So now joining us on screen, we have Janelle Clyke, Martina Kelades, and Kemi Smith. So in order, I'm going to get each panelist to introduce themselves and maybe talk a little bit about their cultural background, their entrepreneurial journey so far. So Janelle, you're up.
Good afternoon, everybody. I am Janelle Clyke from New Glasgow, and just to tell you a little bit about myself, I went to high school here in New Glasgow and played a lot of sports, basketball and rugby. Sport has been a big influence in my life. I went on to go to the community college to take recreation leadership over at the Pictou Campus. It was really appealing to me at that young age. When I attended that program, it really helped me grow as a person, their wellness teachings, just developing a healthy lifestyle. I felt like my high school didn't really teach me that. So the community college gave me a good ground to start an adult life. And I really took that going forward to try and build a career in social work for myself. As an entrepreneur, that was kind of a newer path as an adult. It wasn't really a goal. It just kind of ended up being the only option for me as a person of color, because every time I would join a professional workspace, I felt unsafe or disrespected. So I didn't want to have a 30 or 40-year career in a space where I didn't feel safe. And that's just a little bit about me. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Martina.
There we go. Unmuting. There we go. You'd think we'd have this figured out. I would have it figured out at this point. Hi, everyone. My name is Martina Kelades. And I would describe myself as a proud African Nova Scotian who was born and raised in the Annapolis Valley and currently residing in Halifax Regional Municipality. And I wouldn't have always had said that I was a proud African Nova Scotian. And I say that I'm proud because there was a time in my life where I didn't fully understand my heritage. Growing up in a predominantly white community has led to this, this very beautiful exploration of who I am as an adult. So I didn't really understand my heritage. I didn't really fully understand the significance of my lineage, my family, ancestry. And so I struggled a lot I struggled around identity as a Black child, as a Black woman. And so now it's just, I've kind of come into this new place of, who am I, and have really been reflective of those experiences that I've had growing up that have brought me to where I am today as a very proud African Nova Scotian woman. So I consider myself a soulpreneur, which, I mean, it's not a very common term, but I think for people who kind of work as an entrepreneur, who have an attachment, a heart attachment to their business, might also identify as a soulpreneur. So I kind of fell upon this term years ago when I thought, I am an entrepreneur, I'm a businesswoman, but I also have based my life and my business on the foundation of living, with my heart and soul and putting that into the work that I do. So that's brought me on this kind of roller coaster entrepreneurial journey. So I had no intention on being an entrepreneur until my 10-year career ended in burnout. And so that experience, coupled with significant mental health challenges, have brought me onto this entrepreneur path. And I must also say that I am an NSCC alumni. And so I attended the Kingstec College in Kemptville, graduated in 2007. I took the Human Services program and with the concentration of addictions counseling, and really attending NSCC wasn't part of my post-secondary plan. I went to high school, I graduated from Horton High, and I went to university because that's what you're supposed to do after high school. And so I did the one-year arts program, didn't know what I was going to do with an arts degree. My aunt, who works at the Kingstec College, Charlotte States, she told me about the Human Services program. And so that program really changed my life, and it really helped me to see the direction in which I wanted to go in the Human Services program. After working in the field for several years, I did end up completing my degree with psychology through Mount St. Vincent, which I will also say has a great articulation agreement. So I was able to complete my degree using the credits from NSCC as well. So it's been an up and down, non-traditional kind of journey for me, which I think is always so beautiful. So I always encourage people who are trying to figure out what the next path is in post-secondary to really just allow yourself to just explore all areas. So that's me. Nice to meet you all.
Thank you so much, Martina, for sharing that. Kemi, you're up.
How y'all doing, everybody? My name is Kemi Smith from the Bahamas. Grew up in Florida half my life. I came to Canada about 9 years ago. Played soccer for Dow, retired 2 years early in my career, and then transferred to NSCC University because I felt that I had a gift and I wanted to pursue my gift full time. I ended up graduating from NSCC University. There was only 2 people of color in my graduating class, actually. So from then on, I just wanted to stand out. I ended up launching my business about 5 years ago, doing custom sneakers for celebrities, local people. And Nova Scotia has embraced me by storm because, like, I'm pretty much Black like most of you guys. My wife is from here. My daughter was born here as well. So I'm pretty much a part of the Nova Scotia Afrocentric culture now. So, and 5 years ago, business has been great, and I'm happy to be here. So thank you for having me.
Thank you so much, Kemi, for that. So we're going to get into like some question and answers that I have prepared for you guys, and we'll take turns asking each panelist a series of questions. And, you know, I just ask each panelist to just be mindful of the time and try to keep your answer within 5 to 6 minutes long. But, you know, if you have more to say, you know, I want you to share that. I don't want you to hold back. So we'll start off with Janelle first. My question to you, Janelle, is as a former student of NSCC, what are some valuable tools that you have learned from attending NSC that has helped you run your business?
For me, it was a number of things. Like I mentioned in my intro, taking recreation leadership just gave me a foundation I felt like I was missing from my upbringing. Learning the 7 dimensions of wellness and applying that to my everyday life. Those things are essential for having a healthy lifestyle. And I really took that and ran with it and shared it with my family, and they were able to grow from that information. As for my business, while I was taking recreation, they also offered like side courses you could do during the weekend or different times. So I signed up for a small entrepreneur workshop, which just taught you the basics of how to register a business, you know, the terminology used on the files and forms that you would have to fill out, how you do target market research. So all those little things I took from my community college 2 years. Everything they offered on the weekend or, you know, over and above, I signed up for. I just tried to absorb as much as I could from the atmosphere and the environment that the community college was offering me at that time. They also offered me public speaking at African Heritage Month events. And if I hadn't attempted those at that time, I wouldn't have enough confidence to join panels like this and speak publicly. Nobody's great at it, but if I didn't have any of those experiences, I probably would have turned down the invite to join in something like this. So at the time, it doesn't seem like it's a big deal. Just going to introduce an African drum group in February. But it is a big deal because those are all learning experiences. It is also empowering experiences. I didn't get to attend many African Heritage Month events, but the community college offered it even back then. I graduated in 2011, so the community college has acknowledged the Black community for some time with different events and different happenings from my experience. So I take all that and use it in my everyday business happenings, because when you're an entrepreneur, every day is different, and the community college does its best to prepare you for that. So thank you.
Amazing. Such a great answer. Thank you so much, Janelle. My next question is from Martina. So you have a very unique business model. What has influenced you to pursue a business model that looks at mental health and well-being and wanting to help people? Why is that so important?
That's a really big question, but I'm going to do my best to answer it in 5 minutes. So as I mentioned in my previous question, my experiences with my own mental health challenges, including depression, anxiety, and burnout, influenced me to pursue a business that models mental well-being and wellness. So I worked as a personal development professional for 10 years, supporting individuals to gain employment skills to get back into the workplace. And I've always felt a calling to service, to serve other people, and to work in the field of social services. I, along that journey, kind of lost a sense of self-care. And I, while I was, supporting other people, I eventually forgot to and neglected support for myself. Over time, of course, that kind of led to overworking, really just pouring out in many areas of my life. In my work as a personal development professional, I found that I was kind of preaching all of the, ways to take care of self and the importance of mental wellness and well-being. And I felt like a fraud. I felt like a fraud because I'm sharing this with my clients, but yet not practicing it for myself. Over time, my employer recognized that my well-being was declining, and so through that whole experience, I took time off and did not return to that job. But what I did realize that in that experience that I had an opportunity to kind of bring a message forward from my positive experiences with employers who, were courageous enough to have these difficult conversations with an employee. But I wanted to also do that in my work to hold space for employers and organizations to bring forth these conversations in the workplace, because I find they're so important. And it's important for me to deliver these services pertaining to mental health and wellness, because I believe at the core of every business is an organization are people, and our lives intersect with the many things that we're doing. And so we really need to take care of ourselves in order to serve others and to be there for others. So from my experiences with burnout, mental health challenges, came this beautiful baby I call Life Out Loud Mental Health Consulting and Creatives. And so basically it's talking about the many intersections of life with one another, within ourselves, and with the world, and how we can really use those experiences to promote our mental health and well-being. And so I also started a podcast called Life Out Loud Podcast, which is a part of my business to really get the message out there and to normalize the conversations around mental health and wellness. Thank you.
That's amazing, Martina. That's amazing. And we'll definitely ask you at the end where we can find your podcast so that people can tune in and hear more about this. Kemi, this question is for you. Coming to Canada as an international student, what were some challenges you faced along the path to where you are today? What did you do to overcome these challenges? Because I know there's many layers of not only being Black, but being an international Black student, just to, put that out there. So, could you speak on that a little bit, Kemi?
Yeah, definitely. There are a lot of challenges, but as students, I think being a student is the hardest thing everyone has to go through in their lives, because you're stuck on a limited budget as a student. For example, I couldn't buy a machine for $1,000, and that's the same as my rent. So I think funding is definitely a hard part. But at the same time, if you have a dream and you have a desire to do something, then you will find a way to get it done. I think that was the hardest thing. Another challenge I faced, I think, was just people believing in me because I'm not from here. At the end of the day, they always say good products sell themselves, right? You know what I mean? So if you have a good product, it will sell itself regardless. You know what I mean? For example, Cristiano Ronaldo is one of the best soccer players in the world, and he's from a small village in Portugal no one can really name. So once you put out high quality work, it will sell itself for sure. I think just gathering support from the local community was a bit challenging for the first year, but after the second year, the community embraced me as one of their own, you know what I mean? And it's almost like I'm from here because, my last name's Smith and I blend right in with everybody. So you couldn't really tell I wasn't from here. So everyone just was embracing me as a student, really. So I enjoyed it. But I think being a student is the hardest thing everyone has to go through in their lifetime. You know what I mean? It's almost like a trap because you work hard all summer and you can't get EI during the school year either. So just balancing finances and making smart decisions and keeping a good credit score as a student. I think that was the biggest thing.
Yeah, that's very valid. That's definitely very valid. My next question, we'll go back to Martina. What advice would you give a student, I apologize. I messed up the answers. go to Martina. In your opinion, what are 3 essential skills that you must possess to become a successful entrepreneur?
That's a very good question. And also, I just want to start off by saying that if you do not go to school or you don't do all of these kind of studies around like starting a business and that sort of thing, you can still start a business. I just want to start with that because, as I mentioned, I had no plans, I had no intentions, no business starting a business. And I really just started from an idea. I started from a blog. I started from just really trying to learn how to kind of get this thing up and running. And so I would say one of the essential skills that I found very valuable was continuous learning. That is something that I think is so important in everyday aspect, but learning about your industry, really trying to find out what is the need of your market, and with that information, looking at how you can be unique within that. Now, I know we're kind of on this new wave of mental health, and really it's becoming more of a commonplace for us to have these discussions out loud. And so for me, starting out, I was like, okay, let's really look at how I can learn from what my experience has brought me and bring it into the workplace. What are the needs of the organizations that I want to kind of work with? And so it's been super helpful in terms of my own business development and learning about your industry, and just learning about what resources and skills and supports you need is also really helpful with increasing adaptability skills, because that is another element that I've struggled with, is wanting to have full control over everything. And when you're an entrepreneur, you've got to shift, you've got to duck, you've got to kind of jump over that, you've got to get over that barrier, and really, not allow kind of these adversities or barriers, or when people say no to you in your business, to allow that to define, the value of your business. I've had to keep going in the face of no's, and just keep telling myself, you know what, a no means not now, or a no means this isn't the right opportunity. And so I've had to really learn how to adapt and shift. And I think most people know that over the last 2 years, that we've been shifting left, right, and center in this pandemic. So that's been really key. I would also say time management, and everyone can still hear me, right? That just fell out. Yeah, okay. Time management, setting boundaries is another big one, because I've been in this kind of burnout cycle and in recovery. Setting boundaries is super, super important. Learning what is your capacity, learning how to say no too is a big part of that, because as a business owner, you want to sometimes take on every opportunity. And I've had to really, with the support of my therapist and life coach, learn how to set those boundaries around my business work. If I'm working from home, the time to end is the time to end. I'm not taking calls, I'm not doing all these things, because eventually it leads to, continuous burnout. So setting boundaries for yourself, which includes time management, which includes, knowing what it is exactly that you want to pursue, knowing as an entrepreneur that not every opportunity is for you, is also very, very important. But there's a ton of skills, and I think it's important to recognize that we don't have to have them fully developed before we start the business. A lot of the things that I wanted to do before starting, I wanted to perfect everything, and nothing's going to be perfect as a business owner. You just have to just jump in, hold the vision, and trust the process. So in a roundabout way, those are some of the things that I find are essential in business development. Thank you.
Very well said. Very well said. So I'm going to ask the next question to Kemi, and I know, Kemi, you have a lot of experience with this particular question. What advice would you give a student who's studying full-time, but is also working towards starting up a small business on the side?
My advice would be a student working full time is just believe in yourself. And you need to figure out difference between your job and your work. I was trained as a barber. I was trained as a designer. I was trained as like an architect and I did my degree. But like that was my job. But my work at nighttime is being a sneaker designer and making cool shoes for people. So once you figure out what you want to do, set a small plan, set small realistic goals, and just keep believing in yourself and figure out what you're passionate about. You know, my mother was a principal, so she bleed education into me. She woke me up 6 a.m. every day to study math. So like I was never passionate about school, but I was passionate about sneakers and design. So figure out what you're passionate about and just set small goals. And everything in life takes time. You're not gonna achieve what you want to achieve in the first year. The first year is just keeping your doors open and building your name and then growing slowly. And it's been 5 years in so far, and right now like I'm getting a contract to design some shoes for the World Cup coming in. I wasn't thinking about doing that 5 years ago, right? So start small and keep going, I'd say, and give it a chance.
Thank you so much for that, Kim. That's really good points. So my next question is for Janelle. Janelle, why is it so important to consider the environment when conducting your business practices? And what are some ways that you do this?
I'm 32, and the way I grew up was acknowledging global warming and different environmental issues we have at this day and age. I personally think if you're going to start a business, this has to be built in somewhat as a part of your business. For us, we have a global view. I like to look to different countries, different continents, and see what trends are over there. When you look at, obviously you look at Africa, our connection there as African Nova Scotians, there's many different countries, many different things going on. But a lot of textile waste for us is shipped back over to underdeveloped countries. And consciously fast fashion here is sold, and starting a clothing business and doing market research, all this was also a part of my research. Not only looking for who would be interested in my products as an African Nova Scotian creator, but how can we also connect our shop to a global, like, not message, but it's the connection, because we have a connection as people globally. And for me, I have a connection to African Nova Scotian heritage. So if they're getting our waste, I want to help prevent that. I want to step in and say, I see this happening. You wore your shirt for a week and now it's being shipped in a container across seas and sitting in a landfill in someone else's beautiful country. So as an entrepreneur, in clothing textile, because that's what we do here, I feel obligated to bring that information and education to the everyday consumer because they don't have the time or they're just not aware. If people are aware, they move differently. So for us to be producing clothing, it's very important to consider where the clothing come from and where it ends up, not just the sale. Thank you.
Yeah, I love that answer. And yeah, it's totally really cool what you're doing, because I think that your business is really authentic in its own way. And it's so nice that you're taking other consideration, not just like your profits, but you're taking in the world consideration, because obviously global warming is a big thing that some people are not acknowledging. So it's really good that you're able to do that. So thank you for that answer. Martina, can you speak on the importance of networking and collaborating with other Black businesses? And what are some other Black businesses you've worked with in the past?
It is truly valuable. Networking has really expanded my business in ways that I hadn't planned. Within the Black community and outside of the Black community, just really trying to connect myself with many different people. So network contacts often will refer my business as it creates new opportunities. And so, considering, some of the challenges, the barriers, the adversities that are experienced by Black business owners in particularly, I think it's really important that we share resources that help support, elevate Black businesses in our local community. And I've had such a, I guess I would say like a warm welcome, in my business for someone who, I don't know, I have this kind of idea of a business owner having, all of these kind of imprints in different arenas. And I had nothing. Like, I just started as someone with an idea, I started with an idea. And I really wanted to bring what my vision was to the communities to help increase the conversations around mental health, and especially within the Black community. Growing up in my family, we didn't often talk about mental health challenges. It wasn't something that was, brought forth, or maybe, we weren't comfortable with having those conversations. And I think there is a stigma, certainly within the Black community in itself. And so being a Black business owner in the field of mental health and a woman, I've been well received and supported to continue doing the work within my community. I've had some great success with collaborating with other Black business owners in the area. One in particular is Solar Productions, which is kind of my newest collaboration, which has also brought me onto this new career as an artist, as an actress and model. So working with Solar Productions, agent Salitha Short, who is really on this huge movement in elevating and amplifying diversity within the industry, which is so important. So that experience working with her has really given me the opportunity to collaborate, build my brand with other brands. I've worked with designers in the fashion industry, Trev Clothing, for example, Missionette Fashions. And through my own business, I've worked with some amazing creators. One in particular, you may know her on Instagram as Marika Starr, a fabulous and amazing talent artist. So we've had conversations on the Life Out Loud podcast about the value and importance of art and how that can really support our mental health and well-being. And so I think it's really cool to kind of look around at all the different Black businesses, especially within our local communities, and see like what are the opportunities that exist to collaborate and to really bring forth something that is really special and really unique. Because I never really I didn't have this as a plan starting out, but through these collaborations, we've really put together some really cool productions and had some really great conversations. Thank you.
Yes, and for those who attended the event last year, Salitha was actually one of the panelists that we had on last year. So it's really cool that, we have those connections. But thank you for that, Martina. I think it's so important to collaborate with other Black businesses because, someone might have information that you might be looking for and you won't know until you ask. So I feel like we're all stronger when we come together and support each other. Thank you for that. Janelle, you're next. The question I have for you is, there's a lot of great resources out there to help Black businesses and promote empowerment, such as the BBI, Businesses Jammin', Delmore Buddy Day Learning Institute, Black Educators Association, just to name a few. I'm just wondering, what resources have you used to help propel your business, and how did they help?
They haven't really. They've helped my business. They're aware of my business. They like my products. They share my products. All of these entities. But where we're in Pictou County, it's kind of a smaller town. I do find for my business to access these entities, it's more difficult. Growing up, though, I will say they had a heavier influence on my childhood by hosting entrepreneur March break day camps, which I loved attending as a child. Double or Buddy Day hosted a numerous amount of programs that I attended as a student. I can't thank them enough for putting me in a room with all Black people for the first time. So their influence has been over my entire educational career, but not so much as my business. My business is still relatively new. We're in our second year of a brick and mortar. I think we're only 6 months online. In the future, I know they're available. And I know they're more than willing to connect with me. So just having that subconsciously in the back of my mind as an entrepreneur does give me peace of mind. And it did help structure me into an entrepreneur, which wasn't my goal. But without those little programs and little windows of their influence throughout my childhood, I might not be here today. So thank you.
Yeah, so you would say earlier on as a child and a teenager, those organizations kind of help, keep that idea of entrepreneurship fresh and knowing that you have supports, but it's just now that you're just starting to start up again with your business, there could be an opportunity for to maybe connect with them and to strengthen that relationship. Very good. Thank you for answering that. So Kemi, my question to you, and this is actually the last question that I have formally, and then we'll go into some questions that you, the viewers at home, have submitted into the entrepreneurs, which is really good, and I'm excited to get into those questions. Kemi, where would you like to see your business in 3 to 5 years down the road?
Right now, I try to take it one day at a time, but as of right now, me and the crew are focusing on YouTube. We're close to being monetized on YouTube. You know how inflation is. Everything's going up in Halifax except people's salaries. So YouTube, there's no inflation. So I've been focused on getting monetized on my YouTube channel. Also, me and the crew are focused on getting a storefront, aka a flagship store. Everyone wants to see my work in person. You know what I mean? Like, everyone hits me up all day. Like, everyone wants to see the shoes. Like, this is made out of denim and lambskin. Everyone wants to see it in person. So I can't meet people every single day. So definitely want a flagship store coming up. Working on that, but our rent is in Halifax right now, so and just create my own studio space. I want to give back. I want to teach young Black men how to sew. I want to teach young Black men how to cut hair. I want to give back to the community in the way I have a center for myself. I can teach people every day. I think that's the biggest thing, is giving back to my community, because everyone has embraced me here so well, and just taking my creative juices full time. I think my mom is pressuring me to do my master's degree, but we'll see about that. So just focusing on those kind of things and being a dad, really. My daughter's birthday is tomorrow, and just incorporating her and letting her believe in herself that it's possible if her dad can do it, and just growing the business piece by piece. I just signed a major deal with Crep Protect, so I get free stuff from Crep Protect. I don't know if you guys use it on your sneakers, but just the small things in life and just growing the business and becoming a good father and building my community at the same time. I think that's the goal for the next 5 years. And I feel with YouTube, we could really make that happen. And we can document that and give it back to the community in that way, I think.
I love that, Kemi. And I noticed that because your business, you touch so many different areas. You're an artist where you can draw, but you also do things on sneakers. You're a barber. You got some architectural experience. So I feel like you have so much to offer in different areas, but they're all kind of correlated to each other. So that's really cool.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, no problem, my brother. So that's the final question for the formal part. We're going to go into asking each entrepreneur individual questions submitted by you guys, the viewers at home. So again, please email or send in the questions and we will go through and ask them. So one of the questions that was submitted is from Martina. Martina, what was the biggest hurdle to grow your podcast and getting your message seen? Someone is interested in starting and becoming a content creator. They would love to get a little bit of your insight and experience for that, and no cap on the time. So take your time answering that.
my gosh, if I could give someone $1 for every time I had to unmute, someone else would be rich. So yes, the biggest hurdle for me, two things. One would be that I allowed perfection to stop me from producing and moving forward. So I wanted to do this podcast thing all on my own. I wanted to know how to record from home. I wanted to learn how to edit. I've spent way too much time trying to do all these things that really I have no skills or business even trying to do. It was taking away from other work that, you know, I needed to do in my business. So that was one thing. I came up with a plan, and I eventually decided that I would use a production company to help produce my podcast, which is the best thing that I could have ever done. It's also a business expense. So I know it's hard for people. I mean, you can start a podcast just by recording on your phone. I just don't have the tech capabilities to do all the other stuff, nor do I have the time. So I've hired out someone to do that part for me. So I go into studio, and then I just record, and I meet with people, and I have conversations. I have vulnerable, open conversations about people's journeys and their stories. The other thing I would also say is that fear was another big hurdle for me in not getting started. I don't know what it is about that fear aspect in just recording, because even in studio, I was sweating. It wasn't live. I don't know. It was just a lot for me. But I think at the end of the day, when I kind of did this exploration of why am I feeling so scared? No one's sitting in here looking at me. It's that the message behind it, because Life Out Loud podcast really is a vulnerable podcast. It's about me telling the world essentially some of the struggles that I have, the challenges that I have. And I think it kind of speaks to this whole life of perceived perfection that I was living before. And now with me being open and honest about a lot of my struggles, now I'm kind of showing the world something different. And so if you go to my podcast in the first season, you will hear that it has taken a long time for me to get to where I am today. My first podcast, my first episode in season 1 is titled Doing It Scared. So yeah, I would say those two are the biggest things for me that kind of delayed the process in starting. But if you want to reach out to me on Instagram, I can certainly, I welcome any conversations about getting started, and can certainly provide more resources and supports that I have to share. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that, Martina. And I think you raised a really good point. You know, putting yourself out there to be vulnerable, to share your experiences so that other people can learn from it. I think that is something that can't go underestimated, because a lot of people are, you know, they protect, you know, what their experiences are and what they've gone through, because they don't want to kind of relive that trauma. But I feel like, you know, those strong people who are able to kind of, you know, put their feelings aside and really express what they've gone through to help other people, I think that's really rewarding. So we'll definitely get you to put your podcast in the chat after. And next submitted question that I have is for you, Janelle. How do you keep up your business, and how do you keep your energy and positive mindset during times that we're living through right now with the pandemic?
That is a challenge for everybody. I'm sure it is. And I can't act like I don't have my down days. But being a creator, that's what you're here for, is to kind of break that monotony and be that light. So for me as a creator, when someone comes in and gifts me what they deem as undesirable, I see it as a gift, so it gives it new life right away. And not knowing what's in that bag, and then creating a happy image or an empowering image for marginalized communities out of that unwanted textile, for me, just gives it such a full story. First of all, the textile was unwanted. The imagery on the textile is deemed, well, it's hard to get. We don't have a lot of Black creators or stores you can walk in and see imagery that looks like yourself of mixed culture, because I'm of mixed culture. I have children of mixed culture. They go to school and they're all exposed to one type of imagery. So with our shop, we like to break that monotony and be positive with streetwear, with the culture in mind, with the upcycling in mind. So it's full circle. And with all those aspects, how could you be upset and how could you be down when you have literally the whole rainbow at your fingertips to imagine and create with? And that's the message we want to give to the community. Like, my shop is, for me, out of necessity. I grew up in extreme poverty. It was hard for me to find feminine clothes. I had all brothers and hand-me-downs. And so remodeling textile was something out of necessity. It's part of my soul entrepreneur journey, which I'm going to now take that term because I thought it was fitting for my business as well. You just end up in the situation where creating light is the goal every day. Thank you.
I love it. Creating light is the goal every day. That's very powerful. I'm gonna have to write that one down. My next question is for you, Kemi. Did you have any mentors or any real support during your journey? Is there anybody that you kind of looked up to and kind of helped you along your journey as an entrepreneur?
I wish I had some mentors like that, man. It's just through trial and error. But I have a mentor in the States. His name is Devlin Carter. He owns one of the largest Black-owned independent clothing brands called Sia. It's called Somewhere in America. He designs for all the NBA players. He designs for a lot of local people. His own custom shoe line as well. So he's one of the people that reached out to me. I tagged him in a post, and he's like, "Man, you're hard. Do you have a mentor?" So he was pretty much my mentor. He lives in LA right now. And so he's been mentoring me as a Black designer, I'd say. My wife has been a big support system. The barbershop itself where I work, the barbershop is the place of truth. They tell you if it's whack, if it's good or not, right? So just friends, family, everyone around me, I think, has been a mentor. I mean, you yourself has been a mentor in my life, another Black man, holding it down and being a good friend to me. And you'd always tell me, this is whack, this sucks, and just small things like that, the community itself. And the streets as well. The streets always tell you if it's good or not. And if your name is bumping in the streets, I mean, the product's pretty hot, right? So I think it's just the small things like that. But I wish I could have a mentor in Halifax. If you have one that can mentor me, I'd be really appreciative of that, right? Because, I mean, it's hard to have a mentor because there's no one that has ever been doing this before, right? There hasn't been like a Black architect, graphic designer / barber doing this before, right? So I think that would definitely help me going forward, If you have any, please let me know.
For sure. And you hear that, viewers. So if you know anybody that you think that would be a great mentor for Kemi, please share that. And I appreciate all the nice things you say, Kemi, because for sure, like as a fellow brother, I look up to you, and I like your enthusiasm, and you're definitely a hustler. So good job. My next question is for Martina. So Martina, can you share some of the innovation processes you've gone through to get where you are? Innovation.
Innovation. I feel like this is innovation. Obviously, it's a continuous thing. It's a continuous cycle. But I would say for where I'm at right now in my business, the biggest innovation process would be to really allow myself to lean into the art of creating. When I started my business, I had this grand idea that I would do corporate training. That was kind of like my last gig that I did. Like in my career, I did a lot of training. I taught mental health first aid and some other courses. And so when I started my own business, I think it was just kind of this natural evolution of doing training for my business. It seemed easy and organic in a sense. I then started to realize that the goal of, starting this business and doing customized training, and I'll tell you a secret, I guess everyone's going to know, but the thing for me, when I realized that I needed to remove some of the services that I was offering, I was trying to do too much for one. I think Kemi, was it you who said something about starting small and then being consistent and growing? Right. So I didn't get that message starting out. I wanted to do everything big and large and try and fill all of these gaps, because when you're working in mental health, there's a lot of different areas where you can certainly put yourself in and grow and thrive. However, I didn't start small and I didn't start consistent in that regard. So when I was doing all of these trainings and I was offering customized training, I did a workplace scan with a potential client where I was going to go in and create all of these courses and really just help provide mental health, employee psychological health in their workplace. When I was doing this scan, I realized I had this feeling of, man, I hope I don't get this job. Like, I hope they don't call me back. I hope they just kind of forget about me and we move on, because I just felt overwhelmed and I felt like, you know what, this doesn't make me happy anymore. It's not, I don't think this is fulfilling me. And that was a flag, and I needed to listen, because at the end of the day, when I say I'm a soulpreneur, I mean that whatever it is that I feel led to do has to be done in the business. I can't fake it anymore. I did that for 10 years, which led to burnout. So now as an entrepreneur, I get to decide what work activities and business activities are fulfilling, are meaningful and intentional for me. And so I then made that decision that I would no longer offer customized training because it was way too much work. I didn't have the time, the mental capacity to do it. And so I've scaled back and I've gotten back to the heart of why I'm showing up. And I think as entrepreneurs, we often ask ourselves, why am I in business? That why is the center of why we do what we do, right? And so getting back to it, I love speaking. I love doing the podcast. I love storytelling. And so this year, actually, I've just recently made a shift where I'm basically pausing on all the training and I'm only focusing on keynote speaking at the podcast and then storytelling through my artistry as an actress and model. And it feels good. It feels good within me. And that's why I always tell people who ask questions about business development, hold that vision and trust the process, because that process, even though it wasn't kind of linear, it's not supposed to be linear, by the way, but it told me what it is that I wanted to do. It showed me where I wanted to go in my business. And it's a continuous evolution of business development. Like I said, we flow through what fulfills us and what we need. Because if we don't feel like we're doing something that is meaningful, how are we going to produce and put that back into our communities and into our business? And so I'm always about that. And that's why I said the adaptability is so important, because before I would fight it, I would, try and refuse anything that is not what was in the business plan blueprint. You got to shift, you got to adapt and go with your gut. You would know. So figure out what it is that you really want to do and what is your why and go with it. Thanks.
Wow, Martina, it was very powerful. I think that there was so much good information just from that question alone. I think that, starting off with why, I feel like that's where everybody should start. Everybody has, a past, everybody has things that, motivate them and keep them going. And, I definitely can relate to you. I remember, starting off and trying to put myself out there in so many different avenues and really burning myself out. And then it's not until you really sit down and say, okay, like, I don't like doing this, so why am I doing this? I would do this for free, so maybe this is where I should be going to. So I really think, like, less is more in a way. And when you really focus and narrow in on what it is you're trying to do and why you're trying to do it, I think that that's so important. So very, very good answer. My next one is for you, Janelle. What are you working on right now? Is there any big plans that you have coming up? Like, what's your big project or idea related to your business that is coming up?
Right now we are looking to do kind of like an endangered animal image line. So we had a number of National Geographics donated to us because everything's digital. And growing up, you know, that little yellow logo, everybody kind of recognizes here in Nova Scotia, like National Geographics. And we're going to look up local animals that are endangered. We're going to try and only print those on upcycled textiles. And then we want to communicate to the community, you know, appropriate actions they could take maybe in their backyard to help feed the birds or help these endangered species. So kind of give them an activity with the garment they might purchase here at the shop. So, yeah, thanks.
Awesome. That does sound very exciting. So what I'm going to get into now is I'm going to ask each panelist one final question, and when you answer the question, I'm going to get you to tell the audience and the viewers at home where they can find you, where they can, you know, on social media, website, wherever they can find you. I'll get you to share that. So I'm going to start with you, actually, Kemi. If you could answer this question, how do you define success, and where can we find and learn more about Creations by Kemi?
I think success is defined about, I think success is more defined about hitting your small achievements. And at the end of the day, it's all what you want out of life. You know, like the law of attraction, not everyone's going to own a house, not everyone's going to have a car. You know, some people will take the bus, but I think success is more defined about what you want out of life and more so what you want from achieving your goals. You know, you hit those small milestones in your life. I think it will all go according to plan. Like, I think one of my small goals was to do a shoes for Buddy Hield in the NBA, and I did that, right? So just small things like that. You could find me on YouTube, Creations by Kemi. You could find me on www.etsy.com/creationsbykemi. I don't have the Spotify website anymore. Those fees were bleeding me too much. You can find me on Instagram at Creations by Kemi, same thing on Facebook. And you can email me at shoes@creationsbykemi.com if you have any questions. I'll try to respond to you as quickly as possible. And thank you once again for having me. Pleasure meeting you, Martina, Janelle, everyone. Thank you once again for having me.
Thank you so much, Kemi. So yeah, make sure you go check out Kemi's YouTube page, because he's definitely putting some really good content on there, and yeah, big things to come for Kemi. So Martina, I'm going to go over to you. How would you define success, and where can people find you?
Well, I think before starting a business, I would define success by very hard measures, financial measures. But now I've had a change of heart, and I've realized that success is showing up. For me, success is showing up. It's showing up each and every day, doing the best that I can. It means showing up consistently, doing the things that really fulfill me. And I think just organically through that process, I've been able to build this business and find success through making connections with people, through, success when I, share an episode that is very super vulnerable, and someone reaches out to me privately and says, you know what, your message really resonated with me, or I'm too struggling with, this X, Y, and Z. And it's just nice to know that someone else is out there, So to me, success now means so many different things. And it's not just about, the financial means or some of the traditional standards of success that we oftentimes see in society. So that's my answer. And it works for me. And, am kind of in this place where I'm simplifying everything. If you follow me on Instagram, _Martina.official_, you'll learn that I've just merged my business accounts all into one page. I've gotten rid of one of my Facebook accounts, and I'm in the process of redoing my whole website. So right now you can find me at lifeoutloud.ca. But like I said, that's going to be changing this year, and I'm simplifying, doing things smaller and doing things in a bigger way through that. So those are the two places that I would say are the best places to reach me. And I just wanted to say thank you to you, Ty, to the college, and to you, Janelle and Kemi. It's really nice to meet you and just to hear your stories and to be a part of this. And I think this is very special, and I think it's really important to share and to connect in the way that we did today. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Martina. Janelle, how would you define success, and where can people find you in your business?
Success has also changed what it looks like for me now in my later adult life. Before, as a student in high school, I defined success as, attending university, buying a house, getting married at a certain age, and having your children, like, all in a certain order, a certain time. Like, as an athlete in these circles, that's what you're promoted to take on as this roadmap. But for me, coming from extreme poverty, but also being in these elite athlete circles, I got to see a little bit of both worlds, and having to always pretend in one world showed me that success is just being your authentic self, and those around you that accept that's a success. So for me, having the space where I don't have to hide, where I don't have to straighten my hair, where I don't have to speak a certain way, that's success to me, because I chameleon well, but it's exhausting. I don't want to have to chameleon to make money to feed my kids. I don't want my kids to think they have to chameleon to live a full life, because that is not the way it has to be. Even in a small town, we're in a small area. We have a brick and mortar. We don't get a lot of bodies into it. So we kind of have the opposite problem where we're trying to launch online to meet the customers that want us in bigger urban areas. So success to me is being your authentic self in every space you enter, which isn't possible for some people. So I do not take that for granted as an entrepreneur. Thank you for having me as a speaker. I kind of get to work with my nose down and forget that, there's a lot more going on in our Black communities, and showing youth and showing other people who might be in professional settings struggling. I think this is very needed. Very needed. So it's nice to meet you, Martina. Nice to meet you, Kemi. Kemi, we gotta connect. Like creators, I do not create shoes, but I would love to make this fly outfit together. So I'm gonna be in touch with you. So thank you, Ty, for inviting me, and I just appreciate everybody's time today.
My pleasure, my pleasure. Thank you so much. So now we're just for people still on the call, we're gonna just talk about some resources that we have here at NSCC for students and alumni. So I'm just gonna get a slide put up. So there's a startup acceleration program that is a 30-week program where it's a certificate of professional skills. So that is, you develop your skills in professional networks that you need to launch your business. So it's a very good opportunity for alumni to take advantage of getting enrolled in this course. I think that, it will definitely set you up for success, because you'll learn how to, fund your business. You'll learn how to get resources and community connections to promote your business. So there's a lot of great things. And basically the message I want to get across to everybody is that, there's so many resources out there to help and support you. You just need to worry about your why and what it is that really pushes you and motivates you to want to give back and make sure that your why is bigger than your purpose, you know, because that's what's really going to propel you through those challenging times, you know. So I think that that's very important to consider. That's pretty much it for me. I just want to thank each and every entrepreneur that is here today for this second annual Ask a Black Entrepreneur. I can't thank you enough for being part of this, to share your experiences, your stories. On behalf of NSCC, our students, our faculty, our alumni and management, truly thank you so much. I also want to thank everybody who came together to put this event together. There were so many players that were able to make this event be successful. The IT team, marketing, communications, entrepreneurship, alumni. If I forgot you, I'm sorry. But thank you for everybody for tuning in. We thank you so much. Don't forget to fill out the survey that's going to be in the chat. There will be a chance to win a surprise package that will most likely include some of these wonderful products from these entrepreneurs that we have. And make sure that you put your contact information so that we can contact the winners of that. And without further ado, thank you guys so much for attending the second annual Ask a Black Entrepreneur. I hope you have a fantastic rest of your week. And thank you all so much. And take care.